Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about comedy and how woke culture has completely destroyed what used to be a good time, especially at ground zero of wokeness, liberal college campuses. Let's get right into this video because I have so much to tell you and so much to show you in so little time. So about a month ago, I came across this article that I thought was a joke at first. I was like, this can't be real. This cannot be real. There is no way on God's green earth that this article is real. And it was of Jennifer Aniston, who used to be on Friends, a very popular TV show back in the 90s and the early 2000s. And she was talking about how now that Friends has resurfaced on streaming platforms, it's becoming very controversial for Gen Z. Gen Z finds Friends to be extremely problematic. So here's just a little of what Jennifer Aniston had to say in this article. So she starts off by saying, now it's a little tricky because we have to be very careful, which makes it really hard for comedians because the beauty of comedy is that we make fun of ourselves. We make fun of life. In the past, you could joke about a bigot and have a laugh. That was hysterical. And it was about educating people how ridiculous people were. And now we're not allowed to do that. She then goes on to say, there's a whole generation of people, kids, who are now going back to episodes of Friends and find them offensive. There were things that were never intentional and others, well, we should have thought it through. But I don't think there was a sensitivity like there is now. Everybody needs funny. The world needs humor. We can't take ourselves too seriously, especially in the United States. Everyone is far too divided. I mean, I was flabbergasted. This is actually a thing. Kids nowadays, and when I say kids, I mean Gen Z, the college kids, they are offended by Friends because Friends is just too problematic. It's just too much. It just destroys their safe space. And I can't help but think, wow, if Friends can shake you up like this, what's gonna happen when you discover All in the Family, The Golden Girls, Martin? I mean, really, Friends is where you draw the line. Wow. Talk about sensitivity. It is redonkulous how sensitive Gen Z is nowadays. And that is not all. See, a big criticism that the woke culture is having with Friends is that Friends wasn't diverse enough. A lot of people are saying there were no black people, there were no Latin people, there were no Asian people. It was just a bunch of white people living in Manhattan and there was no diversity, and that's so offensive. That is just so offensive.
She said Friends aired from 94 to 2004 and they talk about its absence of diversity. And I don't remember if it was Chandler, but one of them came out and said they should do like a diverse reboot of it. And I'm like, God. See, there they go, talking once again, trying to just ruin it.
They've done that. It's called Girls.
There you go.
We know, just based on sitcom history, that there is a host of shows going back to the 1970s that was a majority African-American cast. I mean, the list goes on. And nobody was complaining about lack of diversity with those shows. In fact, Living Single, which some say Friends ripped off, is a show about a bunch of single black Americans living in a duplex or townhome, just living their lives, and they happen to be black. And I don't recall anybody ever boycotting that show or calling that show offensive because they didn't have enough Latin people or Asian people or, God forbid, white people on screen. But Friends is problematic because they had too many white people on screen at the same time. Oh my God. Now here's the thing. If you're going to cry about diversity, then it has to be across the board. You must be equally outraged by shows that were predominantly black, Hispanic, or Asian and didn't have any other cultures. Otherwise, you're just a wokie. And I'm sorry, wokies, but I just got no time for you. But see, this is just the tip of the iceberg because the conversation is so much more in depth than just a sitcom from the 90s like Friends. We're talking about an idea, an ideology that states that if you make me feel uncomfortable with your comedy, I reserve the right to cancel you and to call you problematic. And this goes beyond just sitcoms. This is now affecting stand-up comedians. And I'm talking about very famous stand-up comedians. People like Chris Rock, a very successful comedian who himself said he will never perform at a liberal college ever again because everyone is so offended by everything that you say and everything that you do. I mean, Jerry Seinfeld, who was a part of one of the best shows on TV, Seinfeld, said himself,
comedy is its own thing. Comedy is, it's like gold. And when you're mining, when you find it, it's gold. Nobody cares what rock it was in or how it was found or what it relates to, or it's just gold. So if something's funny, it's funny. There's no need to define, explain, or justify it.
Right, that makes me want to play colleges. Yes. If someone says they won't like your stuff, I go, when am I on? When am I on?
I found this video by comedian Russell Peters, and I found it to be one of the most amazing videos that I've ever come across on this subject and this topic.
You know, that we complain about the sensitivities of the young people nowadays, but you know, when you become introspective, you start to realize that their sensitivities are because of our generation. My generation caused that.
Okay,
My generation created political correctness.
Right.
So this was our little attempt, and then it blew up in our face. Listen, I have this line in my act. I say, just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right. There's plenty of things that offend me on a daily basis, but it doesn't mean I'm right, and it doesn't mean that it's somebody else's problem. If something bothers you, that becomes your problem. It shouldn't become the world's problem, and it shouldn't become it's for you to deal with. And the problem is we have a new generation of kids that have no coping mechanisms. They don't know how to cope with any adversity.
But then didn't Chris Rock say he doesn't like going to university campuses anymore?
None of us do.
Yeah.
No comic will do it anymore, because we're not going to play by their rules. You're ruining free speech. That's why when they're trying to cancel the past, you can't cancel the past. You can't erase history. All you can do is learn from it. Because if you cancel it and you erase it, it's going to repeat itself.
So the whole idea of cancel culture, that hasn't affected anything you're doing.
The people that would be interested in canceling me, we're never going to buy a ticket to see me.
Now, for those who may be having second thoughts about this or thinking maybe I'm exaggerating, maybe the comedians are exaggerating, maybe things aren't so bad, right? It can't be that bad at these college campuses. It can't be that rigid. Well, watch this video.
Anytime we put our label or anytime we put our name on an event, it is now an extension of the entire campus climate that we're trying to create.
What a comedian does on our campus isn't the same that they would do at an open mic at the bar a few hours later.
Why not?
Why? Because a student would respond.
And God forbid the students respond or are offended by what a comedian has to say in their set. God forbid.
And when I'm working on a contract, especially with a comedian, I'm very upfront and saying, transphobic language isn't going to be tolerated. If you say something in your set, we reserve the right in our contract to have a conversation with you about payment. And I will also pull the microphone.
You would stop the show and remove them from campus for a bad joke.
This would have to be a pretty terrible joke, right? But at the same time...
Okay, so who decides what is a bad joke? Who decides what is an offensive joke? See, that is subjective. What I find offensive, you may find funny and vice versa. So why is it that we are catering to a very sensitive group of people who don't know how to laugh at themselves or who just can't laugh? Period. So now you're going to pull comics from work. Now you're going to refuse to pay them if they do a set that you don't like. I mean, really? Is that comedy? Is that free speech? Because last I checked, comedy was about making fun of ourselves, making fun of the culture, and it is a form of social commentary. But what you want to do is you want to censor it for the very fragile audience that are college students to make sure that they're at a safe space doing a freaking comedy set.
We've had a situation where we've been very deep and almost ready to completely book with this individual. Found a clip online where she does a set and there's an off thing about sexual assault, and it was actually the students who said, you know what, no, let's find somebody else.
The wokey students took a stand and said, we don't want that comic here. Shocked. The same students who find Friends problematic.
You think people are harmed by jokes?
I think they can be.
Then don't go to a freaking comedy show if you're afraid of being harmed by a freaking joke.
We have all different types of students, but they talk to us. And I do think that with the diverse voices coming into us, they're just
It's rather odd
the
to hear you
people
say
who
that diverse
historically
voices that all say the same thing. Well, doesn't seem very
diverse
to me.
in the way that is respect me and my identity and my experience.
Yeah, diverse meaning they're all woke gender ideology cult members. Diversity.
And if you can't adapt, get out.
Is she serious? If you can't adapt, get out? Really, lady? You are the one and your students are the ones that cannot adapt. You can't adapt to reality. So you want a false sense of safety in the realm of comedy. You want to censor free speech in the realm of comedy and then tell people who just want the freedom to speak and to say jokes that if you can't adapt, you need to get out. Okay, Marxist. Okay, communist.
Leslie's really good about telling you if there's something that could potentially trigger you in any way, shape, or form, so that if they do a talk or a speech about certain things, they will tell you if there is stuff that could possibly make you uncomfortable.
Coming to school is a safe place. Being home or being on the street, you just never know what's going to happen, and when I'm here, I feel safe and accepted and welcomed.
So in other words, this college campus is creating a false sense of security for these very childlike people who are not ready for the real world. I mean, she said it herself. So when I come here, I need a safe space. Well, guess what? In the real world, sometimes there are no safe spaces. Sometimes you just have to adapt, and that's okay. That's how you grow as a person. That's how you grow strength as a person. But having these safety blankets everywhere you go in college is not realistic. I'm sorry, but it's not. And if you can't handle a comedy set, God help you when you enter the real world and deal with real adversity. And the fact that the other girl said that the college always tells them ahead of time or gives them a heads up about things that may make them feel uncomfortable. Why? How about just let them be? Let them deal with those feelings organically, as opposed to trying to walk with them or walk for them. You're literally robbing them of adapting. And that's why we have the generation that we have in college campuses of a bunch of kids who cannot adapt to reality, who lose their ever-loving minds at shows like Friends because they can't believe that somebody said a joke that was offensive to them and it's the end of the world. Yeah, of course they're gonna feel that way because they've been coddled their entire life. From childhood, in their teen years, and now young adulthood in college. It is so incredibly sad to watch these kids who are so fragile and who are not prepared for the real world. They're not prepared in no way, shape, or form. I'm sorry. I'm going to do another video pretty soon talking about how Gen Z even became Gen Z as far as their culture, who's to blame for it because there is a generation that created these monsters, and why it's here. Stay tuned for that video. All right, guys, I'm going to go relax and watch some Friends and be offended, because that's just what I do. If you enjoy this content, please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit my notification bell so you know when I post a new video. I'm so close to 100,000 subscribers and getting my YouTube plaque. Oh my God, I'm so excited about that. You can also follow me on TikTok and on Instagram under CurlyBoyChuck, where I'm continuously being canceled just for you. And I'm also now available on Rumble under CurlyBoyChuck. I'm gonna have a referral link in my description if you guys wanna add that link to your iPad, your iPhone, your desktop. Add me and let's fight woke culture together. Until next time, peace.